and a tough responsibility, I know. I do a lot of that myself. I work with a number of organizations and schools and sometimes government as well, trying to make sure that our kids can find a path that will lead them to institutions other than correctional facilities. We have too much of that, and it's so unnecessary. But it's a highly profitable industry for those people who are investing in it. We've actually invested more in the last few years in correctional facilities than we have in educational facilities for kids.
Wow.
And the evidence of that is very obvious when we look at the populations in the schools and versus the populations of those who are in these other correctional institutions. I think it's difficult for the average person who's not involved with young people or people who are in difficulty with the legal system to really get a grasp on how serious the problem is. I think we almost have to have an individual child or young person to really look at their total experience and what their motivations are and get to know them. We sometimes talk about this as mentoring efforts, where we want to provide some guidance for these people who find themselves in difficulties that are beyond their ability to deal with it. I'm certain that I was one of those kids, and I think with the help of God and my grandmother, I'm a survivor for that. Where I grew up in Chicago on the South Side, and the days when I was growing up there, didn't have too many choices, but also didn't have too many distractions like kids have today. The distractions today are primarily sports and entertainment. When I go into a high school or even middle schools, and I ask the boys, what is it you would like to do to have for a career when you complete your education? And without a blink, the boys will say, I want to be a national football NBA player or a national basketball professional. And this is particularly interesting when most of these kids are maybe just a little bit taller than 5 feet. And for the girls, asking them what they would like to do, their number one priority is to be a pediatric specialist, or whatever the level of the profession is. And pediatrics is what they want to do. And asking them what do they expect to do with this particular qualification, and how much education was required for it, they really didn't know. They hadn't given that any thought. Which brings me around to give you a little bit of my personal background. When I was growing up, I'm often reminded of the day when Freddie West, who was a neighbor kid, we lived in the same apartment building. Freddie and I had both tried to enlist in the Marine Corps and the Navy when we were about 13. And of course they told us nicely, come back in a few years with your parents' permission and so on. And sure enough, about 2 years later, 2 years after that, we decided that we would try and enlist in the Army. And that day we went to a different recruiting station. We went to downtown Chicago, the big office where all the big happenings happened. And we went through the line for the combat engineers. And we had a choice. We could do combat engineers, or we could do something else like some other job, like driving a truck or working in a dining hall, a mess hall as we called them in those days. Anyway, we did the engineering part of it, and wound up going to be trained as demolition experts. They taught us how to blow up things, which was, if we had had that training a little bit earlier, before we came into service, we would have been dangerous. But anyway, later on I thought, and all of this was happening to me at a time when I was totally unprepared for it, like these young women who wanted to be pediatric specialists. Didn't have a clue what I would do if I enlisted in whatever branch they accepted me in. I knew that I would be a soldier, and I would be in uniform, and that I would be doing something for my country. There were many efforts during the next 5 or so years to question my ability to become a professional military person, and largely because of the Jim Crowism that was existing at that time throughout the country, the United States at that time. I think most of you are too young to really have known much about it, but it was pretty serious. And there was a study done by the Army War College in 1925 that said that the results of that dissertation was that black men were not very intelligent, and that's a very nice way of saying some of the other things that they had to say about us. We also didn't have the capacity to learn. We didn't have the capacity to show any leadership abilities. We could not even develop these abilities. We lacked motivation and so on. So, and obviously we lacked character to go along with that. So we were automatically candidates for the penal institutions before we signed up for anything. That was just part of our planned destiny. When we said that we wanted to learn how to fly, which every kid in America, every boy wanted to fly an airplane after they heard about World War II. And because our propaganda machine in this country was amazing. The enemy was the worst thing that ever walked on the face of the earth. And we Americans, we were the greatest that walked on the face of the earth. We had no there was nothing that could be wrong with Americans, and everything that could be just the opposite with the enemy that we were engaging. Anyway, when some of the guys coined some phrases like in the real world, we could do certain things, but in the real world it didn't happen. The opportunities that the recruiters talked about, and the propaganda machine that said that how great America is, and so on, and the land of the free and the home of the brave, and many great sounding things. Well, young boys in America who were probably age 10 to age 15 were probably the most available for that kind of information. We like to know that how great we were and what our potential was and so on, and that it was all good. But in reality, this was not to be the case at all. And I think it didn't take long for us to learn that when we went into uniform and everything was by the numbers. the military protocol was that and when you didn't conform to that, there was a lot of extra duty, we called it in those days. And that was like doing KP, kitchen police. It was like not just peeling potatoes and that, which was a popular way it was described, but it was digging in those great huge pots and vats and cleaning them out and cooking green eggs and I did a lot of KP because I stayed in difficulty a lot. When I transitioned from my gang in Chicago to the big gang in the United States Army, and that was a real transition. The Army had all of these resources, including the big guns and bombs and stuff like that, and they trained me to use it. Oh, boy. But that was not to be the case. So fortunately, after completing my demolition training, I was assigned to the 332nd. This turned out to be an all-black aviation organization, and this is where the Tuskegee Airmen were assigned. And I was assigned to that organization, again, not by any talent that I had or any special anything, but I think through the grace of God. And also my grandmother had discovered that she could write a letter to the commanding officer. And I got put in line very quickly, and there were some guys who were in the service a long time. We called them old soldiers. These guys could fight better than I could. And they were the only ones who could fight better than I could, because I really wanted to be a boxer. That was going to be my career. But they taught me and they mentored me. They said that we're going to make you a real soldier, and so on. And they proceeded to do that systematically between them and the guardhouse and extra duty and KP and stuff like that. I finally got kind of sorted out a little bit, and I knew what I was supposed to learn how to do and do it. Fortunately for me, I loved being out on the flight line. Sometimes, even now, I can wake up from a dream and I can smell the fumes from pre-flighting P-47 or B-25 or something. The sense of that being the presence on that flight line and that experience is very difficult to leave you. You know, it comes back. I hope that some of you have had some experiences that you appreciate as much as I appreciated those. I spent 13 years on overseas assignments during my 20-year term on active duty. I spent, one of the things that makes programs like yours, the initiative that you guys are engaged in now, so close to my heart is because 60, 70, 75 years ago, I would have been one of the people that you were trying to assist. And that's where I come from. I come from that background. It's kind of like, in one sense, I could look at it as climbing out of a deep hole, and I had a long way to climb up to get out of that hole. It's something like Plato's Dialogues in the Cave, for those of you who read philosophy. I could watch the shadows of people dancing on the wall because of the fires in the background that gave off that light reflection, so we could see the shadows dancing on the wall. I was so blessed to have an interest in so many things and visiting so many countries that were really disadvantaged, where the young people, the kids, and the old people were having great difficulties. And I was blessed to be able to volunteer to help them a lot. and they taught me a lot in the process. And in England and Japan and Korea, back immediately following the end of World War II, throughout the Korean War and into the Vietnam War. War is it leaves a whole country, and the poverty within that country is such that the people are damaged a lot. Again, I had the opportunity to volunteer to work with orphanages and working with children and seniors, and sure enough, I have not been able to change my MO. I find myself doing the same thing over and over again. From back 60 years ago in Japan, working with orphanages and that, and here today, I'm still not far from that. In fact, my chapter at Tuskegee Airmen, we're looking at working with an orphanage here in Atlanta, and I think this is not what my intention was. My plan was to be a rich guy, like I would become a boxing champion and have a lot of money and be able to travel and do nice things. And I'm not anywhere close to that. So, and I'm not getting any closer. So, there's no matter how hard I try and how determined I am to do something else, God kind of reminds me that's not your decision to make. Your career is already planned, and you're going to go where you're supposed to go, whether you like it or not. And that's sort of where I am. So I'm not disappointed in that, because I feel that some good comes out of it. My efforts result in a better opportunity for a lot of people, kids and their families, and so on. And I'm very pleased with that. I'm not pleased with not having some more money, and I'd like to have my own airplane and be able to go where I want to go, and that kind of thing. That I'm not getting any closer to that. So, but I accept that, and I think and meeting Alfred is an example of one of the great benefits of being open to the guidance that God provides for me, as it does for all of us. And it brings me to where we are tonight. When I agreed to come and speak with you all this evening, I wondered what you would be like, and I immediately found out how warm and friendly and how focused you must be to volunteer to do this kind of work. And I'm very pleased with that. I'm proud of where I will go from here. I'm sure I'm going to do some good things before I go to what we call the Lonely Eagles Club. That's where we transition to when we leave, when we get discharged from this life. The next step is that Lonely Eagles organization, where we go and fly with our old comrades. Anyway, it's been a real privilege to come and spend this time with you all, and I hope that I'll have another opportunity to come and speak to you and about something that I can get my hands on that shows that it's a contribution to the people that you're trying to serve. I'd like to be a part of that. And I think I've probably run out of my time, so I'm going to, again, thank you again, Reverend